I'm sure you've all watched an Indian classical dance performance at some point in your life. Have you ever noticed a bronze figure? Before the performance begins, dancers often bow before it, seek its blessing, and only then begin their dance. The figure is Nataraja, Lord Shiva, as the Lord of Dance. But here's something fascinating. The very same image also stands outside CERN, one of the world's largest particle physics laboratory. In 2004, the government of India gifted this 2-meter tall statue of Nataraja to CERN as a symbol of the long standing collaboration. And CERN chose to place it at its entrance. But why? What does Nataraja really symbolize? Let's investigate. Namaste, I'm Tushara. You're watching Tattva Theory, where we investigate timeless questions with ancient Indian wisdom and modern science. At first glance, it does not seem like it makes any sense. Nataraja is worshipped as a lord of dance. Modern physics is built on mathematics, experiments, and particle accelerator. They appear to belong to completely different worlds. Why has this ancient image fascinated so many physicists? Was Nataraja simply created as a patron deity of dance, or did ancient Indian philosophers deliberately use this image to express their understanding of reality? To answer that question, we need to go back to earlier scriptures. Across Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, and many schools of Indian philosophy, there is one recurring pattern which is consistently emphasized. Three fundamental ideas of reality. First, existence is dynamic. Everything is constantly changing. Birth gives way to death. Death gives way to new life. Reality is not static, it is an ongoing process. Second, existence is ordered. The universe is not governed by randomness, but by an underlying cosmic order. The Vedas describe this principle as Rita, the universal law that sustains and governs the cosmos. Third, the existence is interconnected. Nothing exists independently. The Isha Upanishads declare that whatever moves in the moving world is pervaded by the divine, pointing to the fundamental unity of existence. We find these ideas throughout the scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna reminds Arjuna, for one who is born, death is certain, and for one who dies, birth is certain. The verse presents existence as a continuous cycle of creation and dissolution. The Rig Veda introduces the idea of Rita, teaching that the universe unfolds according to an underlying order rather than chaos. Between 2nd and 6th century CE, the Puranas and the Shaiva Agamas developed a systematized image of Nataraja as a symbolic representation of these philosophical ideas. According to Shaiva Agamas, Lord Shiva performed the Ananda Tandava, the dance of bliss, at Chidambaram before the sages of Patanjali and Vyagrapada. This divine dance was not merely a performance, it represented the eternal rhythm of universe. Every element of the Nataraja sculpture reflects this philosophical vision. The Damaru represents creation, while the flame or Agni symbolizes dissolution, reminding us that every ending makes way for a new beginning. Although Shiva is dancing, the dance is graceful, rhythmic rather than chaotic. It reflects the Vedic idea of Rita, the cosmic order that governs the universe. And every part of the sculpture works together as a unified whole, expressing the interconnectedness of the existence. But the symbolism goes even deeper. Shiva's foot rests on Apasmara, the dwarf of ignorance, teaching us that the greatest bondage is not changing universe, but our understanding or misunderstanding of it. His raised foot symbolizes moksha, the liberation, while his raised hand offers reassurance and protection. Finally, the dance itself is constantly changing, but the dancer remains unchanged. In Shaiva and Advaita tradition, this points to pure consciousness as the unchanging reality behind ever-changing universe. Nataraja is therefore not merely a symbol of the cosmos, it is the symbolic representation of the existence itself, A reality that is dynamic, ordered, and interconnected, while ultimately grounded in an unchanging consciousness. If Nataraja was merely a poetic idea, we might expect this representation to vary from place to place. Instead, archaeologists have uncovered something remarkable. Across India, separated by hundreds of kilometers and spanning among centuries, the same symbolic image keeps appearing. One of the earliest surviving depiction comes from the 6th century Badami cave temples in Karnataka. Here, Shiva is carved as a dancing figure with 8 arms. Soon after, similar images appear in Elephanta caves near Mumbai and rock cut temples of Ellora in Maharashtra. Different kingdoms, different artists, different centuries, yet the core symbolism remains unchanged. By the 9th century, under the Chola dynasty, the image has evolved into iconic bronze Nataraja that we recognize today. Hundreds of these bronze sculptures have been discovered, all following nearly identical proportion and symbolism. For well over 1,000 years, generations of sculptors, philosophers, priests, and rulers carefully preserved the same symbolic language because it was a visual philosophy, a way of expressing how reality works. From modern science, we very well know that universe is not static. Galaxies move, stars are born, they die, continent drifts, and even our own bodies are constantly renewing themselves. We also know that creation and destruction they occur together. Supernova create heavy elements, stars die, and seeds new stars. Ecological successions very clearly show us ending enables new beginnings. Through laws of physics, that is general theory of relativity, quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, it is very well established reality follows order. Change occurs according to consistent mathematical laws. Stellar nucleosynthesis, ecosystem, network science, systems biology shows nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected. Water cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, rock cycle, stellar life cycles shows how nature operates through recurring cycles. So, across cosmology, physics, biology, and earth science, the evidence consistently points to a universe that is dynamic, lawful, and interconnected, and also cyclical. We know how modern science arrived at its understanding of reality. Every claim had to be tested through observation, experimentation, mathematics, and independent verifications. But how ancient Indian thinkers arrived at some of their philosophical ideas remain an unanswered question. They lived long before telescopes, microscopes, spectroscopy, or even particle accelerators. Yet they described a universe that is constantly changing, governed by an underlying order, and fundamentally interconnected. How did they reach these conclusions? One possibility is that they were extraordinary observers of nature. Ancient Indian civilization closely studied the motion of sun, moon, planets, seasons, rivers, ecosystems, and cycles of life. Over generations, these observations may have revealed universal patterns that inspired their philosophy. Another possibility is that these ideas emerged through rigorous philosophical inquiry. Upanishads are filled with debates, logical reasonings, and relentless questioning about nature of reality, consciousness, and existence. Some of the scholars also suggest that contemplative practices like meditation offered a systematic way of investigation. Perhaps the most remarkable part is not that the ideas resemble modern science, it is that they survive for 1,000 years, continuing to provoke questions across philosophy, archaeology, and science. What we do know is that these traditions are more than just stories. They contain deep philosophical ideas about nature, consciousness, and existence. They may not be scientific theories in modern sense, but they can inspire new ways of thinking and asking questions. Science and scriptures they begin from different methods, yet both describe a universe that is dynamic rather than static, order rather than chaotic, and profoundly interconnected. Where they differ is equally important. Science investigates the outer universe through observation, and the scriptures investigate the inner universe through inquiry and experience. Together, they offer two different perspectives of exploring reality, one through empirical investigation, other through philosophical inquiry. Perhaps that is why so many physicists have been fascinated by Nataraja. Whether you agree with these ideas or not, don't rely solely on someone else's interpretation of Vedanta or even mine. Read the scriptures yourself, question them, compare them with modern science, challenge your assumptions because truth is not inherited, it is discovered.